I am your Constitution, Constitution of Independent India. I was adopted on 26 November 1949 and came into effect just 2 months after on 26 January 1950. On this day, I made India sovereign, socialist, secular and democratic republic. With my coming into force, I gave citizens justice, equality and liberty and endeavor to promote fraternity among them. To make people understand my importance and spread thoughts and ideas of my father, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Constitution Day or Samvidhan Divas is celebrated on November 26 every year. The Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, after being sworn in for 1 year, declared 26 November as Constitution Day in year 2015. A host of events were planned by the government in 2015, which was also the 125th birth anniversary of my architect, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. My power can be defined from the fact that I am country's supreme law and defines the framework of basic political principles. I am a living document and establishes the main organs, executive, legislature and judiciary, defining their powers, demarcating their responsibilities and regulating the inter-se relationship. The Holy Book lays down the basic structure of governance and the relationship between the government and the people. The rights and duties of citizens are too spelled out. It is the mother of all other laws of the country. Every law enacted by the government has to be in conformity with me. I have been derived from Latin word constituto, used for regulations and orders, mostly imperial enactments. The world's longest constitution is me. At my commencement, it had 395 articles in 22 parts and 8 schedules. It consists of 80,000 words, making it the second largest active constitution in the world. Currently, it has a preamble, 25 parts with 12 schedules, 5 appendices, 448 articles and 101 amendments. I have a long history before my adoption coming in effect. The seeds of me were sown many years prior of giving birth. The process of my evolution began decades before India became independent in 1947. My origins lie deeply embedded in the struggle for independence from Britain and in the movements for responsible and constitutional government in the princely states. Let's take a look at how I was created. India first came into contact with the West in the early 18th century when it was annexed by the British East India Company. It was the Constituent Assembly and Constitution Draft Committee that were formed to draft me. Lakhs of Indians sacrificed their lives during my evolution. The ancestors fought for freedom for hundreds of years. After every revolt, some rules were introduced in the form of reforms. The story started way back in 1600 when Britishers came to India as traders. The historical underpinnings and evolution of me can be traced to many regulations and acts passed before Indian independence. It can be seen under two broad heads, the East India Company rule and direct ruling under British Crown. The Company rule started in 1773 and ended in 1858. The Act that come under Company rule are Regulating Act of 1773, Pitt's India Act of 1784, Charter Acts of 1833 and 1853. The Crown rule that started from 1858 and ended with Indian independence in 1947 had acts, Indian Council Acts of 1861, 1892 and 1909, Governments of India Acts of 1858, 1919 and 1935 and Indian Independence Act of 1947. In the year 1858, after the revolt of 1857, British Crown assumed direct responsibility for the governance of India. The revolutionaries associated with the freedom struggle of 1857 also tried to frame me, but this work could not be completed due to reinstatement of the British in September. On August 20, 1917, British government made a declaration that the policy of His Majesty's government is that of increasing association of Indians in every branch of administration and gradual development of self-governing of institutions. The Act introduced for the first time bicameralism at centre. Mahatma Gandhi's statement in 1922 proved fight against Britishers. He said, "Swaraj will not be a free gift of the British Parliament. It will be a declaration of India's full self-expression. That it will be expressed through an act of Parliament is true. Swaraj can never be a free gift by one nation to another. It is a treasure to be purchased with the nation's best blood. It will cease to be a gift when we have paid clearly for it." The leaders of the national movement started demanding for grant of responsible government in India from 1890 onwards, and by 1916 the voice of desire to have me was loud and clear. In response to the continuous demand of the national movement, the British government appointed all-white Simon Commission in November 1927 to recommend changes in me. The Secretary of State, Lord Birkenhead, challenged the Indian to prepare a draft of me. Leaders of the nationalist movement responded to the challenge by drafting the Nehru Report. The report was also called Motilal Nehru Report 1928 and was released by All India Congress Committee. The idea of Constituent Assembly for India was put forward for the first time by M.N. Roy in 1934. Until May 1, 1945, there was no important work done in the direction of framing me. After July 1945, the Cabinet Mission drafted a constitution building work to build one member from 10 crore population. In 1942, the British government appointed Cripps Mission. The Cripps proposals categorically stated that framing me would be the sole responsibilities of the Indians alone. In July 1946 itself, a committee consisting of Nehru as the chairman and Asif Ali, K.T. Shah, D.R. Gadgil, K.M. Munshi, Humayun Kabir, R. Sanathan and N. Gopalaswamy Iyengar as members was constituted to prepare material and proposals for framing me. The Constituent Assembly met for the first time in New Delhi on 9th December 1946 in the Constitution Hall, which is now known as Central Hall of Parliament House. On 11th December, Dr. Rajendra Prasad was chosen by election as the first permanent chairman of the Assembly. Overwhelmed and jubilant, the honourable members sat in semicircular rows facing the presidential dais. The desks, which would be warmed electrically, were placed on sloping green carpeted terraces. Those who adorned the first row were Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Acharya J.B. Kriplani, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Sarojini Naidu, Hari Krishna Mahtab, Pandit Govind Ballabh Pant, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Sarath Chandra Bose, C. Rajagopalachari and M. Asif Ali. 207 representatives, including 9 women, were present. The inaugural session began at 11 a.m. with the introduction of Dr. Sachidananda Sinha, the temporary chairman of the Assembly, by Acharya Kriplani. The first day's proceeding ended after all the 207 members present submitted their credentials and signed the register. The Constituent Assembly took almost 3 years, 2 years, 11 months and 17 days to be precise, to complete its historic task of drafting the Constitution for independent India. During this period, it held 11 sessions covering a total of 165 days. Of these, 114 days were spent on the consideration of the draft constitution. As to its composition, members were chosen by indirect election by the members of the provincial legislative assemblies according to the scheme recommended by the Cabinet Mission. The total membership of the Assembly was to be 389. However, as a result of the partition under the Mountbatten Plan of 3rd June 1947, a separate Constituent Assembly was set up for Pakistan and representatives of some provinces ceased to be members of the Assembly. As a result, the membership of the Assembly was reduced to 299. On 13 December 1946, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru moved the Objectives Resolution. This Constituent Assembly declares its firm and solemn resolve to proclaim India as an independent sovereign republic and to draw up her future governance as me. This resolution was unanimously adopted by Constituent Assembly on 22nd January 1947. Late in the evening on 14th August 1947, the Assembly met in the Constitution Hall and at the stroke of midnight took over as the Legislative Assembly of an independent India.
The notable constitutions of other countries were first consulted.
On 29th August 1947, the Constituent Assembly set up a drafting committee under the chairmanship of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar to prepare a draft of me. While deliberating upon the draft of me, the Assembly moved, discussed and disposed of as many as 2,473 amendments out of a total of 7,635 tabled. I was adopted on 26 November 1949 and honorable members appended their signatures to it on 24 January 1950. In all, 284 members actually signed on my holy book. The then President of Indonesia, Sukarno, was the first guest of honor in India for the Republic Day celebration in 1950. Prem Bihari Narayan Raizada wrote my entire holy book in a flowing italic style in the best calligraphic tradition of our country. Nandalal Bose took up the historic task of beautifying and decorating the original manuscript of me. The original copy of me is kept under a helium-filled box in Parliament Library building. I was ready on 26 November 1949 and was implemented on 26 January 1950.